Welcome to The Explainer, where we take expert analysis and, well, we make it make sense. We turn it into clear, actionable insights for you. Ever feel like you're just lost in all the economic noise? Yeah, it's a common feeling. That's exactly why we're here today. We're going to cut through all that complexity by breaking down a recent fireside chat hosted by Prevail. They put this together specifically to connect their network with some top-tier expertise, to bring a little clarity in these pretty uncertain times. And to get that clarity, Prevail brought in a real heavy hitter, Kuehl. He's the chief economist for the Armada report, and his job is to give a really clear-eyed view of all the forces shaping our world. All right, let's dive into his key insights. Now, the most entertaining economist we know, that's not something you hear every day, right? But that's how Prevail's president describes him. And it's because Kuehl has this really rare knack for translating incredibly complex economic data into something we can all actually understand and use. He's not about chasing the daily headlines. His job is to dig deeper and find the fundamental forces that are really driving our economy. Okay, so let's start with the big question, the one on everyone's mind. Inflation seems to be stabilizing, so why do things still feel so incredibly expensive for so many of us? Well, Kuehl points out something really interesting. While the overall inflation rate is what the pros call creeping inflation, a slow, steady rise instead of a huge spike, the problem is where those price hikes are happening. They're concentrated in the things we buy all the time. Think bread, milk, vegetables. It's that constant weekly reminder at the grocery store that our money just doesn't go as far as it used to. And this has created something called a K-shaped recovery, which you can kind of see visualized here. It's like the economy has split in two. For folks on that upward arm of the K, let's say the top third of earners, yeah, higher prices are an annoyance, but that's about it. But for everyone on that downward arm, the bottom third, where a staggering 85 to 90% are living paycheck to paycheck, it's a full-blown daily crisis. The takeaway? We're not all living in the same economy anymore, we're living in two. And this story just perfectly illustrates the mindset at the very top. Kuehl shared this anecdote about a luxury car dealer who jacked up a car's price by $40,000. The buyer didn't even blink. Why? I'm rich, man. For that market, a higher price tag actually makes the car more valuable as a status symbol. It's just a completely different world. So, when we talk about what the Fed's going to do with interest rates, it's so important to remember that the Federal Reserve isn't just one guy. The media loves to focus on Chairman Powell, but Kuehl describes him more as an organizer of big egos. The real power? It's in the consensus. You've got influential voices like economist Chris Waller, and especially the regional bank presidents. They're the Fed's eyes and ears out in the real world. This whole collective decision-making process is exactly why any future moves on interest rates are going to be slow, deliberate, and very carefully debated. Okay, so let's shift gears and look at the engine room of the economy. We'll explore spending, labor, and supply chains, starting with consumer spending, which has been, frankly, surprisingly strong despite all the headwinds. So why is everyone still spending? Well, according to Kuehl, it comes down to three pretty powerful and honestly kind of unique drivers. First, you've got the boomers. They're deciding, hey, let's spend our money now instead of letting the tax man take a massive bite out of it later. Second, skilled workers have this incredible, almost unprecedented job security right now. And third, well, it's just part of the American DNA, isn't it? When things get weird, we tend to go shopping. And that brings us to what Kuehl says is the single most significant domestic issue we're facing, the critical shortage of skilled labor. He gave this perfect example of a manufacturer that posted a great job. We're talking 6 figures. A decade ago, they would have been buried in 200 applications. This time around, they got 2. Just 2. This little anecdote just captures the incredible power shift that's happened. One of those 2 applicants apparently walked in, put his feet on the desk, and basically said, "No, buddy, I'm interviewing you. You got 4 minutes." He wasn't there begging for a job. He was interviewing the company. And listen, this isn't just some temporary blip. By the end of this decade, every single baby boomer will have hit retirement age. So what does that mean? It means this dynamic where skilled labor is calling the shots is here to stay. And that's going to keep propping up consumption because these workers are confident and they aren't afraid to spend their money. All right, looking ahead now, let's try to separate the hype from the reality when it comes to technology, and then we'll pinpoint the biggest risks that are actually lurking on the horizon. You hear it all the time, right? AI is going to change the world. And yeah, maybe, but Kuehl offers a much more grounded take. He says to think of AI like having a team of super fast graduate students. It can process a mind boggling amount of information very, very quickly, but it still needs a human expert, a real person, to tell it what's good data and what's garbage. Because here's the thing about AI, it just pulls from all the information that's already out there online. And as Kuehl hilariously points out, a lot of that information is just wrong. It doesn't know that the source it's pulling from is, well, a moron. You still need human intelligence to guide the artificial kind.
But, while AI is grabbing all the headlines, Kuehl argues the next truly transformative tech wave is being driven by something way more fundamental: simple demographics and economics. Think about it. We have an aging population that needs care. A good nursing home costs a fortune, and an $8,000 domestic robot is a one-time purchase. The math is pretty simple. He actually predicts that by 2030, 1 in 3 households will have one.
So, when you boil it all down, our biggest challenges come down to two things. Here at home, it's the lack of skilled people. That's what's putting a cap on our economic potential. And on the world stage, it's a lack of stabilizing leadership. With major powers turning more inward, there's no clear world policeman to de-escalate regional conflicts. So they just simmer and potentially boil over. And that creates massive uncertainty for global supply chains and markets. Okay, so what does all this mean for you? For the decisions you have to make moving forward? Let's distill this whole conversation down to the most important takeaways. So here it is, the big picture. This is the really complex landscape that a firm like Prevail helps its clients navigate. You've got that K-shaped economy splitting in two. You have the massive power shift over to skilled labor. You've got the need to be smart and scrutinize new technologies like AI. And underlying all of this is the long-term concern over our national debt, which Kuehl calls a chronic disease that could really drag on our future potential. When you think about it, with boomers spending their inheritance and robots on the rise, it makes you wonder what long-held economic rule is going to get broken next. Understanding these huge fundamental shifts in labor, demographics, and tech is really the first step toward making smarter decisions in a world that is just changing faster than ever. The real question is, what's around the corner?